Hey gamers, what's up? Muzz here from L1 Games with a quick video for you. Today I want to talk a little bit about making offers on video games. What's too low? Is there any such thing as an offer that's too low or a lowball offer? And what connotation does that hold? Like, are you a bad person? Are you immoral or unethical? Are you a jerk? Are you being insulting when you make low offers? That's what I want to talk about, so let's get right into it. So, if a seller is taking offers on a game, console, or whatever, and someone makes a really low offer, why do some gamers characterize this as insulting, selfish, greedy, whatever? I have a real problem with this. First off, this is all subjective, so we have to cover what situations, if any, set the standard for what kind of person is making the offer. After all, we do tend to jump to conclusions about things that we don't always have a lot of real insight into. And the best example to that, for me, is the speeding car example. You're on the freeway, speed limit 60 miles per hour, and someone goes flying past you at 80. And you always look over and you're like, what a jerk, I hope they get a ticket, I hope they crash, I hope whatever. You know, people say foul things. And you never really stop and think. Like, okay, that person could just be someone who's driving like a maniac. That's cool, okay, we all get that. But what if they have someone in the hospital? What if their child's been injured? What if their wife's about to give birth? We don't always know the situation from the outside that we're looking into. And this carries over into a lot of situations where we might see someone doing something and we don't quite understand why they're doing it, but if we did, it would be justifiable in our eyes. So any standard we set for this is going to be really arbitrary, right? It's solely about the interpretation of the person looking into it. And when it comes down to that, and people making offers on video games, what do we go by? And I can only assume that most people think it's all about the intention of the buyer. A lot of people have problems with resellers. And you gotta ask, is a reseller automatically evil, selfish, or greedy? I don't know, is your local video game store selfish and greedy for trying to make a profit, pay their considerable overhead, and stay in business? There is a misconception made by a lot of people that all the profits you earn at a business just go right into the owner's pocket and they take it home, but there's a lot more to it than that. There's payroll and utilities, internet, phone, state sales tax, credit card processing, all these different things that feed into running a business, and that profit dwindles down as those things get paid off, and the amount that the owner takes home or that the business profits is actually a lot less. So when a business gives you $20 for a $40 game, that $20 doesn't just go right into the pocket of anyone. It gets spread out, and a lot of people don't seem to understand that. And this applies to any business. Do you look at a retail business like Walmart or Target or Best Buy, any of those, with the same disdain that you do resellers? And if not, why not? It's basically the exact same thing. It's just an individual doing it versus a business doing it. And isn't that like the American dream? Everyone wants to make a buck. I don't really see a problem with it. So let's say someone makes a really low offer on a lot of games that would normally go for, say, $150. Does the standard change if the person making the offer is really poor and that's all they can afford? Let's say they have a budget and $30 is the only thing they can offer for it. Does that mean that they're somehow being insulting? Or does that mean that poor people aren't allowed to make offers? What if they're just really frugal but want to own the games? They're really responsible with their money and they can't see spending, what it costs to buy this game, so they're just going to make a lower offer, and if the person accepts, the person accepts. What if they're a reseller and they just want to make a few bucks? But what if the reason they're reselling games is because their kid has cancer, insurance doesn't cover everything they need, and they're trying to make extra money for healthcare? Remember the speeding car? This kind of falls into that category. Now, what if this is a situation where it's all they can afford, so they offer $30 and to actually get the games? But then, say 5 years down the road, they sell them because they don't want them anymore. Does that suddenly mean they're selfish or greedy? Does it retroactively become more insulting or greedy than it was when they bought them? Or is it okay to sell your games depending on some certain amount of time that you wait between the time you bought them and the time you sold them? I mean, if they buy the games and they want to resell them right now, how does it differ from the person who waited 5 years? Most gamers sell a game at some point. Are we greedy because we want to earn a few bucks when we sell something from our collections? And if not, why is someone greedy for wanting to make a few bucks for anything they bought? Whether they bought it right now or whether they bought it 6 days ago or 6 years ago. How many gamers have made super low offers at yard sales or similar venues? I don't think I know a single gamer who hasn't scored a good rare game at a yard sale at some point. Is that somehow unethical? If you see a $50 game for $5 at a yard sale, do you take it to the person in charge and go, hey, you're going to take $50 for this. I'm going to give you $50. That doesn't seem really likely. And if someone gets a $300 lot of games on a no reserve eBay auction with a high bid of $50, would that make it any different? If so, why? It's really no different than making an offer on any lot of games. I bet that the vast majority of us gamers have at some point gotten a game for our collection at an insanely low price, and we're super stoked about it. Does that make us selfish or unethical people in some way? Does it suddenly make it selfish or wrong if we decide to sell it at some point? Or were we jerks just for buying the game in the first place? I say no on all counts. My personal collection is filled with games that I couldn't pay full value for, but I got at a great price. And I do love them, but that begs the question, does that make a difference? Is it different if I cherish what I buy? Again, I say no, because if someone is going to sell a $50 game for $5 or a $150 game lot for $30 or a $300 game lot for $50, if someone took a low offer on an expensive game for whatever reason, then it doesn't really matter who bought it and for what reason. The deal was out there. It was found and it was made. But here's a mind bender for you. A seller puts a $100 game on Facebook and is taking offers. A buyer offers $20 and gets it. Is the buyer a jerk for lowballing? Did the seller get ripped off? Do you have the answers to these questions in your head? Now consider this. It turns out the seller posted the game knowing it wasn't functioning properly, and the buyer was poor and only had $20 to offer but wanted the game because it reminded them of their childhood and they wanted to play it with their kid to share the memory. Who's the jerk now? In the end, regardless of what it is, we don't know why someone makes the offer they make or what a seller is willing to accept if they're taking offers. People haggle and that's expected. So whatever your reason for making a low offer, whether it's because you're poor, cheap, or you plan to resell, whether you keep and love what you get or give it as a gift, maybe you're just a hoarder, whatever, it's all completely irrelevant. So if someone is actually insulted by an offer that someone else makes to them or to someone else, then they're already putting too much energy into this transaction. Feelings shouldn't come into it. And if they do, then as a seller, have a price predetermined. This also applies to sellers who list items too high. As a buyer, there's no reason to be mad if someone is asking too much for something or doesn't accept your offer, no matter how fair you think it is. Maybe they love the game and they just don't want to sell it for less than they're asking. That happens. If the price is too high, it won't sell. If a buyer's offer is too low, it won't sell. But there may be middle ground that makes everyone happy. If not, then both the buyer and the seller move on. The end. No one has to be the bad guy, and no one should act all holier than thou and pretend to hold some position of moral superiority over someone or something they don't know based on a deal they have no part in. All is good, as long as everyone remembers buying and trading on any level is a business transaction, nothing more, and it should be treated as such. And that's really all I have to say about this. So, if you have an idea, a thought, or a comment, leave it below and I will try to respond to you. And if you haven't already, please do subscribe, hit that bell icon so you get updates for future videos. Follow me on Twitter at L1Games. You can check me out on Instagram at L1Muzz, and on Facebook, there's a group and a page, L1 Games. So I'm out of here. I will talk to you all soon. Thanks for watching.